It's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to DDP Snake Pit. And, of course, we couldn't do it without our Hall of Famers, Mr. Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake, how are you, man?
Oh, man, the sun is shining. I'm ready to burn it up.
Well, let's do it, and let's do it with our old pal, Diamond Dallas Page. What's up, DDP? How are you, dude?
Ready to go, baby. Ready to go. Talk about our favorite places.
Yeah, man. Last week, we talked about our favorite finishing moves. This week, we're talking about the biggest, the best, the worst, the best crowds you've been in front of. Let's talk about the biggest crowds you ever wrestled in front of. Dallas, I guess we'll start with you. I think you participated in the largest, biggest crowd in professional wrestling history, or at least in North America. It was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, WrestleMania 32 at AT&T Stadium. More than 100,000 people in the building, they say. What was it like walking down the aisle with $100,000 and folks there?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a picture right up here because, whenever you were doing our YouTube ones, when we do me and Jake and you on camera, we get to throw all those pictures up there. So if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, we appreciate you listening. If you want to check us out on the YouTube channel, check out DDP Snake Pit. So right here, it's a picture my buddy Kent Backler took of me, and tiny little picture that you see of me because he wanted to get all 3 floors, and you can just see a mass of diamond cutters. What I was really pumped about is everybody did the walkout, but they actually played my music and Shaq's music. And I will never forget when we got everybody together in the back. And I can't remember who the agent was, but they said something about, make sure, when you're out there, get your face out there, in the right spots where know where the cameras are. Well, when Big Show and Shaq were going over, baby, I was right there. Right there. In the moment. Hit a couple cutters. I think I hit 1, maybe 2. And then over the top rope I went, and I'm out of here. But it was so much fun. God, I was 61. What year was that? What year?
Was that 2017?
17. So 4 or 5 years ago, right? Yeah, I was 61. And it was like the day before my birthday or the day after. That's
2016. My apologies.
Yeah. What I loved about Spring Stampede when we had, our big pay-per-views, that happened right around my birthday. The day after my 41st birthday is the day I beat Savage at Spring Stampede. Now here I am, almost the same scenario with WrestleManias, and all the Hall of Fames all went around my birthday, which are really cool. But I loved coming out to that humongous crowd, and that's why I was really surprised that Vince went for 2 shows in the same house. And I get it. You're already renting it out. You own it. Let's see what happens. But, man, when you're going to an arena that big, I'd rather fill it up one time and have that electricity that he had back in 2017 than maybe have some parts of it blocked off, just my own preference. But I was just happy to be on that card. It was a lot of fun.
That's your biggest crowd, though, right? WrestleMania 32?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I've heard, Jake, is that when you're in a building that big, you don't really get the sound the way you do in a smaller arena. Was that your experience, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You get some buildings that are just made for it, and the same thing, you see concerts that are held in some buildings and they say, the sound wasn't that good. You want the people on top of you. When you get that big, man, it starts bouncing in the wrong ways. The first time it ever happened to me, we was in the Georgia Dome. And it was like the people, it takes a while for the voice to get there.
There's a delay.
Light is pretty much instant for our eyes, but light years, they call it, light still coming at us, from certain areas of the universe. But the sound thing is kind of weird. When I was WrestleMania was probably the one that threw me the most because I knew we were getting the pops with me and Christian, but I wasn't feeling it like I would have felt it in an arena that was 20,000 or 10,000.
But because those people are on top of you.
Right.
It's like WrestleMania 3, going to the ring and they shooting us up on those scissor lifts. That was wild. And then I got Alice Cooper over here who's trying to pass out. He's sliding down my body, scratching the shit out of me. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, dude? And he's like, too much rush, too much. And I talked to him afterwards, and he's like, dude, he said, I didn't have a guitar. I didn't have a prop. I didn't have shit. This is your gig. I didn't know what to do with myself. And when the rush hit us, I remember my skin felt like it was just crawling. I felt like my hair was growing on my arms. I'm looking, what the hell's going on, man? They're just itching all over. It's an incredible feeling. But I'd much rather have a building with 20,000.
Yeah, for me to wrestle in, for sure.
Yeah.
For that pop, though, to be able to walk out there, and like I say, and throw it up and see all those people do it, and that's, I'd already realized when I went back for Raw's 1000th episode and got the pop that I got walking out there, and Heath Slater taking the diamond cutter and getting that pop and pop it up. I realized, okay, I can do this as long as I can do this, and we're going to get that same reaction especially because of the network. And I talk about that a lot now on Peacock. I love how you did a couple weeks back. We did the Spring Stampede, and you broke it down like where it was and where people could see it. And, it's such a great way we're classic rock now.
Yeah. A whole new generation of fans, It's like, okay, Stones are going back on tour. Wait a minute, he's 80 years old. I don't get around like Mick does. And I couldn't if I wanted to. So that's that.
That's son of a bitch.
You might be able to.
That son of a bitch. I can fake it. I can fake it for a while. But that son of a bitch is the greatest shape ever. He still sounds great. And I know they use that thing where they sing over themselves, a lot of the artists today, because it's so big and they want to have the crystal sound. But you could see it if you've got that camera on him, and because they'll go off a script and come on, that some of these guys are really doing it.
Oh yeah.
And again, because the sound gets lost in these big stadium acts,
Jake, for you, WrestleMania 3, 93,000 folks, that's your biggest crowd, right?
I believe so. And again, I would have much rather had 22,000 in Cleveland or 22,000 in New York or at the old Boston Garden. Oh, that's one of my favorites there. Oh my God. That building had so much history in it, man. I used to get there early and go look at the rafters and stuff and see the banners hanging and then go in the back, and here's the parquet floor that they play on. I was a big fan of Boston back when Bill Russell was kicking ass. I mean, he was a stud.
He was a stud.
He wasn't 7 foot. He just was a mean son of a bitch. He got in there and played, brother. And they had such a great run. But that Boston Garden just had so much history in it, man. And I loved it. And it was a damn shame when they tore it down.
Is that the building I've heard Bruce talk about, that it would get so hot the walls would sweat?
Yeah. And they had the biggest rats in there.
The biggest what?
Rats. They look like dogs. No shit.
And you don't mean like from the 80s. You mean like, yeah.
These are the animals. They were wharf rats for what they were, because they were right on the water.
Right.
And when they shut that thing down at night, they locked everything out and they turned the dogs loose inside. And the dogs were inside to try to kill the rats.
Wow.
But sometimes the dogs didn't fare that well. But you remember Iron Mike Sharp?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Iron Mike Sharp took the longest showers. He was Mr. Clean. He had a real issue with that. We used to really mess with him. He'd come in the locker room and he'd have 2 suitcases for one show. And one suitcase would have extra towels, extra soap, wash rags, toilet paper, everything. And, if he shook hands with you, he'd have to go wash his hands. He's a clean freak. So we used to let him come in, and then we'd take turns going and shaking his hand. Then he'd go wash his hands, and then somebody else would go shake his hand.
My gosh.
But he would shower. His showers, he was always the last guy out of the shower, even if he was on first. And one night they locked him up in the Boston Garden. And he was in there for several hours. That's before cell phones and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And he was in there for several hours because he tried to come out and the dogs came after him. So he was in a mess.
So Jake, even though, as far as while you're in the ring doing your thing, putting on a performance, you might prefer a smaller venue. There has to be part of you that had a great sense of pride riding that silly little go-kart golf cart down to the ring at WrestleMania and looking around and thinking, boy, if Dad could see me now, right?
Absolutely. That was a huge, huge pop for me inside. And the fact that I'm with Alice Cooper, who I adored as a teenager. And, his songs were really hot when I was in school, man. School's Out for Summer was the number one song in my senior year. Everybody was singing that shit. So to be with him, to go out there and have a match and be a part of it, bottom line is it's history, and it's a big mark in history. For years it was the number one show ever. But, I feel so amazed about it when WrestleMania 3 is they did this before the internet. Before
pay-per-view, really? I mean, it was a closed circuit thing.
Right, exactly. And I know WrestleMania 2 I was a part of, and they ran that in 3 different cities.
What year was that? What was your WrestleMania 1? Was it 83?
85, because 3 was 87.
Yeah. In 86, they did it in 3 different shows. They did Long Island, Chicago, LA.
Yep.
Just logistics and everything. I don't know how they pull that off, man. It's just unbelievable what Vince was able to put together for these shows. But I still like the smaller buildings, to get the feel of everything, to enjoy it more. I think you enjoy it more. I mean, for some reason, that Richfield Coliseum always felt good.
Man.
The building that did not feel good was Landover, Maryland.
Why not? Why didn't it feel good?
I don't know, man. You could put 20,000 in there and it still wasn't fun. It just depends on the crowd and the people, man. You go to Long Island, though, holy shit. You better be ready to fight.
Those
are rough people out there, man.
Them in Philly.
Yeah.
That in Philly, boy.
Philly was brutal.
When I flipped from heel to babyface, I was very fortunate that the people in New York and Philly still really dug DDP, because if you were a babyface,
they'd beat you to death as a babyface.
Yes, they were a heel crowd. That was like some of the first heavy heel crowd areas.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Jake, before you were strutting down the aisle at WrestleMania 3 in front of 93,000, there had to be some, smaller crowds. What's the smallest crowd you remember working in front of?
8 people.
8?
8 people.
Tell us about it.
Where the hell was that?
That was in Japan. And it was on top of a 16-story building on the roof. And the owner of that building paid the wrestling company to put on a show for him and his family. That's it.
Okay.
So 8 people. But we gave those 8 people a hard time, I promise you. And it was raining too, by the way.
What year would this have been if you had to guess?
Oh, probably 79, something like that.
8 people. Wow.
8 people, yeah.
What about you, Dallas?
Fun.
Oh man, when we started WCW, when I broke in 91 was my first match, wasn't it? 91?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, 90 or 91. I'm pretty sure it was 90, 91. But man, we were still there. There were still arenas booked, like the Charlotte Civic Center or Charlotte, not Civic Center, the wherever the professional team played that held 20,000 people. And they got it sectioned off and sectioned off and sectioned off. and there might be 500 people there, man, for a building like that. But even going to the smaller buildings that held like 4,000 or 5,000, and there's 300 people in some shows. You know, it was brutal, man. And we're talking about with some of the biggest names ever on the card, but we just weren't hot right then. You know, WWE they were drawing fine, but we weren't drawing shit, man. And it was for a couple of years, you know, that you went out, you did that. Now there were still places that would draw, like Baltimore. Those fans,
Cleveland,
they are great. Cleveland,
Chicago,
Dayton, Ohio,
Columbus.
Ohio. Chicago was my favorite place. And Chicago is where I really felt like I got over the most there. Birmingham, Atlanta, Salt Lake City. But Chicago was a place. There's a reason why AEW started their whole run there, you know, with All In before AEW is even around. You know, when it's Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, like the spot they picked was Chicago. And was it the Rosemont? Is that what was the building that we were at over there?
The Rosemont is where everybody loves to work in Chicago.
Damn right.
But All In was at the Sears Center.
Sears, that's where it was at. That's it, Sears Center. You know, I love the United Center because we took that sucker over, man. And that's when everything exploded because you didn't want to walk in there until you were. But again, Chicago fans to me are just so, they love wrestling. You know, at one time I knew there was 8 different little territories, you know, where they ran a weekly or a monthly match. You know, my buddy Frankie Rodriguez, he was up there. He had his own little territory at one time up there, and there's a bunch of guys up there that the fans love it. They love it and they support it.
Yeah,
and that's what I love about the Chicago fans that having so many, you know, people, so many federations because they support it and they're passionate.
So let's talk about some of the not so awesome experiences. What's the most hostile crowd you think you had over the years, Jake?
Oh God, Mexico. Mexico was really brutal.
Oh no. Yeah,
I know. I went and did an interview at a TV station in Acapulco, and my limo took me back to my hotel. And as I'm walking towards my room, there's an outdoor bar, and they got the TV on. And I look up at the TV, and I see people being blasted with a water cannon. They're flying. The water cannon would hit them, and they would just fly. And I'm like, holy crap. What the hell's going on? What the hell, man? Turn that up. And the guy's like, amigo, that is for you. I'm like, what do you mean it's for me? They are looking for you, the people. They're coming to kill you. And I'd done the interview in the station, and the people came to the station to get my ass. And they were trying to break into the station. They'd busted out windows. They were rioting. But I was already gone. And
he's not kidding here. He had serious.
It was awesome, bro.
Crazy, scary.
Yeah, very scary.
You know, because he just was there. They took it very seriously. And I was really kind of shocked. You know, the first time that we were in AAA, which, man, that was the most hostile crowd I've ever been in front of. And I was with Jake, too. So the heat's just rubbing off, you know, on me.
They're hitting him with everything you can think of, cups of urine.
Oh, you too.
Yeah, me too.
But when I will never forget, because they were throwing batteries.
Oh, man. That was weird. And Connie saw us.
He was on his stomach at one point. He grabbed the little, what's the Sagaritas?
The midget.
Yeah, the midget wrestler was all in white hood, white. He was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
He was unbelievable. And Jake took him and just spiked him. You know? I mean, the heat was so overwhelming. I don't remember why. Jake was on his belly on the mat, and I was down next to him, like we're dodging shit. And all of a sudden, and he trapped something that was flying at him. And it was a a toenail clipper, but had, the knife. You can pull it open to shave, to do your nails, but it's a knife. And he trapped it. He goes, "We're out of here." And he grabbed a chair and he hands me a chair. I go, he goes, "Put it over your head."
Block.
Yeah, like block shit that was coming at you. Like I never experienced that shit. But I did in the AWA. I'm working with the Guerrero brothers, Hector and Mondo. I'm not wrestling, I'm a manager. And Bad Company. And we had Mondo upside down, and all of us were just blasting him. And then here come the baby faces out of the locker room, because Vern still did the 2 locker rooms back then. And I'm coming around, dude, I'm green as grass. Maybe this is my 5th day. I've been working 5 months, but I work once a month. And there's no barricade there.
Oh, God.
There's just rope. And I come running around the corner, and here's a dude going.
Clothesline.
No, fist right in the face. Now, I think it's one of the boys. So I'm starting to already kick back. I realize I don't even know who that guy is. And he connects. Wham! He hit me so hard in the face. I went down and I got up and I grabbed that son of a bitch. The next thing I know, everybody's pulling me back, pulling him back. Cops took him in because he was just a fan.
Oh, yeah.
Was so pissed off at me. I had so much heat with him. And man, he caught me perfectly on the jaw, swelled me up. And the cop was basically saying, this is 1988. And he's like, unless you're going to press charges on him, when you have to be here to do it.
Yeah.
He goes, this is the Wild Wild West. So do you want to let him go? I said, fuck him, let him go.
Yeah.
But I wanted that little son of a bitch. He wasn't even that big, man. He just came in like, I turned, bang, and blasted me. That was the most hostile besides that night.
Besides Mexico, I went to a show in Hazard, Kentucky. Okay. And
that name says it all.
Yes. We're driving down the road and I see a sign, "Welcome to Hazard." And there's nothing here. Nothing. And then we pull up and there's like a flea market type shop over here on the right. So I go in and say, "Hey man, where's the wrestling show?" And I go, "Oh yeah." She says, "Right down the road, take your first left and go up in the holler." The what? Drive up in the holler. Just keep going. It's not much of a road, but just stay on it. You're going to cross the creek. It shouldn't be too deep right now. You'll be all right to get across. I'm like, what the hell? He goes, then you're going to go up and then you'll see the gun turret. The what? Well, I drive up there, and sure enough, guy up in the gun turret. And he's got the gun up there. I'm like, what in the hell is this? I thought I was entering a fort. But what it was they held chicken fights there. And that guy up there in the turret was to warn the people in the building to scatter because the cops are here. Well, we go in, and at intermission, I knew that we were in trouble because a couple of guys had already been in fights in the crowds. And they were throwing some pretty nasty stuff. But when they auctioned off a shotgun with shells, during intermission, I said, what am I doing here? Well, my opponent wound up getting cut. I can't remember the guy's name.
Is this an indie show?
Yeah, an indie show. Yeah.
Early on or later?
No, later. This was in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he got cut in the parking lot. But I got the hell out of there. But I remember back in the day, we go to Houma, Louisiana every other Sunday. And they had a small building, probably seated, 700-800 people. But they had a upstairs, and they were right on top of them. And they used to gauge the crowds there. Now, the way you gauge the crowd was, if you knew it was going to be a good show, you'd ask the policeman who's right outside the dressing room door, how many fights in the audience before the show started? And if there were more than 6 fights, you knew you were going to have a good crowd. Because usually it'd be like 8 fights. If you only had like 5 fights, oh shit, it must be the shits out there. And you'd go out and it'd be 400 people. But if you'd had 6 or 7 fights, you'd go out there and be packed. I remember as a referee, I was refereeing Stan Hansen against Vic Mueller. And somebody from upstairs hit Stan Hansen with a cup of ice. And it didn't hurt him. It pissed him off. And he had Mueller down, and he raises his foot and stomps Mueller's head and said, "Sell that." Mueller said, "When I wake up, I will." And he says, "Don't count me out, goddammit." And he got out of the ring, went around, went up the stairs, and went and got that son of a bitch.
I'm sure everybody stooged him off.
Oh, man. Yeah, because Stan was yelling. He's just hammering people, man.
I used to love his entrance.
Oh, my God.
To Japan.
Oh,
scared the hell out of all those guys.
Him and Brody both, yeah.
Yeah.
Walk through the people, man. Walk over them. But, yeah, Mexico was definitely the toughest. I mean, you get caught in that bull arena, and at 4 a.m. they had to call the baby faces back down to the bull arena and stage a autograph signing at 5 a.m. so we can get the crowd away from the dressing room so I can get out. And sitting in the locker room and drinking tequila with Pedro Aguayo, who didn't speak English. Me and him got along just fine as long as we had tequila. And Sensational Sherry was with me. God bless her. And I remember going from the ring back to the locker room. We had to fight our asses off. And I got mad at Sherry because when we got to the back, she had knocked 6 guys down, and I'd only gotten 3. And I said, "Damn, Sherry, you should have fed me somebody." She's like, "Hell, this is fun." And, she just wanted to go, man. But I remember that the manager for the rap group, Salt and Pepper, was there. And he was part of that AAA thing. And he come to the locker room, and his jacket was gone. And then the lawyer for AAA come in, and he lost his wife during the thing. And his stuff was all ripped off on him because they were sitting in the same area that I had seated with Sensational Sherry. We were ringside. And then I stepped over the barricade and blasted the guy, and he lost the match. But that's when the fight started. But, yeah, Acapulco and seeing people being blasted with water cannons, that's exciting stuff. It really is. I remember one time at the Boston Garden, we're getting ready to leave the building, me and Hacksaw. And we get to the area, there's like 6 or 7 doors. And we look, and people are right outside the doors, man. They're waiting. And now they're screaming, "Jake the Snake," and "Hacksaw, whoa," all this shit. And I look at Hacksaw and go, "How the hell are we going to do this?" He goes, "Look, Jake, you go down there. I'll go down here. This will help split the crowd up. On the count of 3, we hit the doors, and we just push right to the car." All right. So I'm carrying a snake bag with a snake and my wrestling gear. On the count of 3, okay, 1, 2, 3, and I hit that friggin' door, man. I'm pushing through the people. I'm like, "Damn, man, what the hell, man?" And they've got me now. They've stopped me. And I raise up and I look at Hacksaw. Hacksaw's still inside. That son of a bitch. He waited for all the people to come to me. Then he came out and walked straight to the car, no problem. By the time I get to the car, he'd been sitting in there, 4 or 5 minutes. I was beat to hell, man. I was a babyface.
Well, one of my favorite things to do at Big Show back when he was the giant in WCW. We'd be driving together, and he's a babyface, and I'm a heel. And we come out. I used to love Saginaw. Had like the fans, waiting. They weren't allowed to be near the door.
Right.
They were out of the parking lot on the other side, but they can see everything. And they're like, "Oh, DDP. Because people are starting to turn me at that point, But I'm still just being a heel and show he's a baby face. And so we get everything loaded up, and I turn around and go, "Who wants autographs?" I go, "I don't think so." And then Corey goes, "You motherfucker."
Yeah, buddy.
I did that to him so many times. Oh, my God.
Jake, do you have any stories of working over in Japan in the Tokyo Dome? I think you worked at 1990. Yeah. It was a big combination WWF, All Japan, New Japan show. Yeah. But that Japanese audience, it's a little different, right?
Yeah, they are different, man. I don't enjoy the Japanese audiences at all, man. They're very reserved. And you go out and bust your ass, you want some type of reaction out of these people. But they're very reserved and they're very, inside. And, you might get a, that's it, wait a fucking minute. Come on, is that it? Yeah, I believe I wrestled Boss Man. I think.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, and this just shows you what American culture and wrestling and how it changes the way people are. We were there in 2002, WWE, and I was on that card. And Shane McMahon, he was the one who was like coordinating everything on that trip. And I mean, I'd seen all of the quiet clapping and ooh, and like no big pops. Well, now we're there, and I'm hearing sounding like kind of like what our crowds would be.
They have changed.
And we went out there, and I said, hey, I go before I said, on the way out there, Shane, let me do my thing. Let me go out there, grab the mic, and let's see what the people do. And he goes, sure. He goes, go for it. And I went out there, and man, they hit all of the catchphrases. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I was like, wow, they know those words, even if they don't speak any English.
Right.
They can speak. It's kind of like learning a song.
Yeah.
Well,
I got fooled by that over there.
Yeah. And it's really, it's changed a lot over here. That was still 20 years ago. So today, and I look at some of the way their guys work today, they're still stiff as hell. Yeah. But those guys, they tell stories too.
Yeah.
They tell stories, man.
They've been taught. Yeah. Taking years. The first thing that happened to them is they had, Carl Gotch teaching.
Right.
And he was a pistol man. And, they had some bad dudes over there, man. He just didn't mess with them.
Yeah, when he says pistol man, for some of you got like a shooter, like a badass sumbitch.
He could snap you off and feed you your arm, pretty quick. And then they had Ricky Dozan, who was the Japanese version of Carl Gotch, who was so tough that a man stabbed him in a bar and he refused to go to the hospital. And he sat there and drank till he bled to death. Good guy.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how Ricky Dozan died. Got in a fight in a bar. A guy stabbed him. He's like, I'm beyond fucking needing help.
That's believing your own shit.
Yeah, a little bit too much.
On a wrong level.
But, I never enjoyed being over there. I liked some of the scenery, of course. The food was horrible, I thought, except for sushi and a couple other things. But, working over there was rough. I started going over there in the 70s, and it was a fight. I used to tell people it's like going to jail and being let out once a night to get the shit beat out of you, because those guys are in such phenomenal shape. They were machines that never ran out of gas. I can go for a little bit, but I'm going to run out of gas. I got to take a break somewhere. And they didn't have to. And of course, whenever you run out of gas, you leave yourself open to everything. And you're like a babe in somebody's arms because you can't defend yourself. I had the unfortunate situation of going over there my first trip to Japan, and I'd done a bad thing, to be quite honest with you. I'd taken a photo with Andre the Giant. And at the last second, I stepped forward. So when you look at the picture, I'm only that much shorter than Andre.
Right.
I look like a huge son of a bitch. Well, I sent that over there to try to get a job. Well, they gave me a good job. They gave me way more money than I should have got. So I went, and when I came off the airplane, I see them they had these track suits on with the name of the company and all that stuff waiting on me. And I'm like waving at them. So I walk up to them, and they're constantly looking around me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you looking for? No, it's me. I'm Jake Roberts. What? And they look at the picture, they look at me, and they go, "You shit boy." That was my name, Shit Boy. And this company was called International, and they were also called Blood and Guts.
IWA.
Yeah, and I had the cage match every night for about 10 weeks.
You were over there that long?
I stayed 12 weeks my first trip.
Oh my God.
That was absolutely brutal because International, you went to hotels that did not have, Western stuff.
Right.
You had the slot in the floor to poop in, shit in, and you had rice mats to sleep on. Oh my God.
I couldn't have done that.
Brother, you had to take your shoes off at the door when you walked in the hotel. Like, I'm not going to leave my shoes here. Somebody will steal them. Not over there. When you come down and get your shoes, they'd be in the same place, but they'd be cleaned. They'd clean your shoes at night.
Wow.
And it was really wild, man. But it was scary because we were in small areas. One night I had a little accident with whenever I gigged myself, and I caught that major vein, and I wouldn't stop bleeding, so they'd take me to the hospital. And it was an old doctor. Oh, American GI. I'm like, oh, fuck, what have I got myself into? Oh, this is going to hurt, telling me I'm pain come now, pain. And he heats up this wand and sticks it to it and cauterizes that vein. And I start cursing, and he's like, "Say motherfucker too, you GI die." Like, what the fuck, man? I wasn't here for that. And it's pretty spooky. It was spooky over there in the 70s for me because I see the results, what was left of the bomb. I went to this one street that still had the vaporized places where the bodies were been. That were vaporized right there, and you can still see the shadow in the concrete.
Wow.
And then you'd see people wearing the mask because they were literally rotting from the inside out because they had been hit with the radiation and stuff.
That's brutal.
Yeah. And so there was always a little bit of doubt in your mind if you were going to get out of there alive.
Understandable, though.
Yeah.
Especially in the 70s.
Yeah.
Dallas, what are some of your favorite outdoor venues? I know WCW ran some interesting ones. They had Road Wild. They had the Bash at the Beach on the beach. Did you have a favorite or a least favorite outdoor?
I wasn't crazy. I wasn't crazy about the beach. On the beach. I thought that was lame.
Yeah.
I hated that. I did like Road Wild, and I loved it because we would, Bish and me and God, it must have been like, Medusa, Steiners. We'd all ship our bikes up to Minneapolis, and then we'd ride into Sturgis, which is about 780 miles. And we wouldn't do it all at one time. We busted up on like 3 different legs. We get there, fly about, drive about 200. Then next day, drive about 280 or 300, and then roll in the last 200, and then we can go out in Sturgis. And Sturgis is crazy, man.
It's the Wild West.
It's the Wild, Wild West, man. And what's beautiful that I loved about it, because Kimberly got to do all that with me. She put it up, probably 80% of the ride too. She rode on the back. But what's great is when you get there, and then you can go up to, the monuments and, all the presidents up on the mountain. And I mean, it's such a beautiful country, and it's in August. So it's beautiful that time of year. And that whole town, people know about it now, but that's been happening for 65, 70 years now. They've been doing that back in the 50s. They were doing Sturgis, and there was all the real bikers there with all the, midlife crisis bikers.
Yeah.
And what was really shocking to me was the women that, some of them were hot, but that percentage was real low. And they were afraid to wear, man, it's like they wear whatever they want to wear. And it's colorful. We'll just call it that. I loved being out there and just spending time out there. That, I remember that's what first place said. I had met Travis Tritt, who was one of the biggest country stars on the planet back then. That was right after we did the Jay Leno thing, which I was really surprised how much the people got with that match.
Yeah.
I was really surprised because we'd have done that like in Chicago, or Alabama, I don't know, Georgia, I don't know how well that would have been received. But out there were a lot of people who were wrestling fans, but there was a lot of people who were the casual wrestling fan. And they're the ones who I think enjoy that more than anything. Because Jay obviously is not a wrestler, but he's an entertainer.
Yeah, he is.
And of course, you got Hulk down selling his arm bar. That was like, that was him. Hulk was going to go out there and make the guy look good. But it was just fun being out there in that crowd and being in that whole environment to me.
I got one for you.
Okay.
Manchester, England. Okay. Afternoon show. I'm ready. I'm in the back. There's a curtain. They're going to pull the curtain open. I'll be standing there. So I'm standing there getting ready and pick the snake bag up and put it on my shoulder. And a guy walks up with a kid. He's like, Mr. Roberts, would you mind signing my son's autograph? I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. They're fixing to open the curtain. Get the fuck out of here. Jesus Christ. Where's security? Get that. I got the bag up and the thing opens and I go to the ring.
It's not the prime minister, is it?
No, it's Robert Palmer.
Robert Palmer from freaking Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. He wanted me to sign his kid's fucking... But he wasn't there no more. He left. I had one other incident like that. Madison Square Garden. That little elevator there at the back of the hall?
Right.
Back there getting ready to go to the ring. It opens up. And they got a camera. They're going to film me going to the ring. And about 10 people walk out. The first two that walked out nearly filled the whole elevator door. They were about 400 pounds each. Big, big men with jackets and suits and shit on. I'm like, guys, you can't be here. This is a bad time, man. They're filming me going to the ring. Get the fuck down the hall. Get the fuck. And then a little guy steps out. And the big guy goes, dude, that's Sugar Ray fucking Leonard, man. He ain't going nowhere. How you doing, bro? Yeah. Yeah, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Jake, your biggest outdoor event, I think, is the big event, Toronto, Ontario, August 28th.
Something like that.
61,000 paid, 64,000 there. Is that the biggest outdoor arena you ever did?
I believe so. I'm not a fan of outdoor arenas. I really am.
It's even worse for the sound.
Yeah, it's horrible for sound. And it's horrible to see, because the people that are in the back, they got all the people in front of them to see over. So I don't think it's good for the fans, and I just don't like it as an entertainer.
People get caught up in it, in the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
But, to me, it's like, it's lame.
Yeah. The only time I had a good time was in place in Colorado, not Denver, but the Colorado City or whatever it is. Colorado Springs. I wrestled one-man gang there in a rodeo arena after it had rained 5 inches.
Dude, I can't believe you said that, because I was going to say a story just like that.
And we went out and we had a blast, and they had bikers for security. So we're taking bumps in the mud, and just having a great time slinging mud. The fans, as soon as I slung mud, the fans started slinging the mud. And it was pretty nasty. That was a little bit of fun, except I ruined my damn boots, which was like $4,000.
Yeah, right. I'll bet. But you know what? If you still had those today, you'd get 10 grand for them.
I know they rotted, man.
We were in Red Rock, and the guy who used to do it wasn't Wheel of Fortune. It was one of those big shows like that. And it wasn't Sajak. It was one of those guys who did one of those shows with now promoting bands and stuff. And he took his hand to wrestling and he put us in Red Rock and the entire area. And they did concerts there and everything.
It's unbelievable.
The sound really was really good.
Yeah.
Do you know the area I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's one of the most famous concert venues in the world just because of the acoustic.
Yeah, right. And man, I was out. I can't remember who I was out there, but it was raining and it was coming down, and nobody's leaving.
No,
and the way the way it happened, you'd think it would have puddled off.
No,
but it didn't, man.
Not that deep,
right? I remember taking a backdrop, and when I hit, that water went.
Reminds you of that movie with Stallone and
Paradise Alley.
Yes,
that was a great. Terry Funk's in that movie.
Yeah, he was.
He did a great job in that movie.
Right, he did.
So let's talk a little bit about the WCW high water mark. I think most people agree, Dallas, that was when Goldberg beat Hogan at the Georgia Dome. There's like 41,000 fans there. It was thrown together very quickly, but it was so hot. It didn't matter. You get to be in the ring that night with Karl Malone. You guys did a little thing. Is that, when you think about your WCW memories, is that the biggest moment you think? I'm not talking about in your career, but I mean for the promotion.
Not my career, but as far as many people out there and stuff, you're being a part of that. Yeah, but it wasn't that big a moment for me. I love doing stuff with Carl. It was fun. Training him was the most fun because he actually put work in. And if you look back, I mean, Hulk wanted like 40 minutes. I'm thinking if we take 12, that's perfect. Like that's in my head, but no, they laid out like 40 minutes with everything. Way too much for those guys even to semi-comprehend. But they both did a pretty damn good job. So that was a bigger moment than anything when we shot the angle on the Tonight Show. That was like when Dusty saw me walk on stage with Malone and friggin' Rodman and Hogan are there and we shoot the angle on Tonight Show. That was the biggest moment because what happened after that with the press conference was like, it might as well have been the Olympics, or friggin' Game 7 of, the playoffs or the World Series or whatever. It was that big of a turnout. And so that was the biggest moment. The thing that what we were just talking about, I can't remember the name.
Well, the high water mark, we're talking about the Georgia Dome.
The Goldberg thing was big, was great, humongous for him. It was a moment for the company. Yeah. If I could go back and rebook that whole thing, I would have waited on Bill on that. Because I had real stuff, angles with Hogan going into that. Billy was so hot, and so was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So they just kind of pushed Goldie up against friggin', Stone Cold type of thing. And let's put the title on him. And it was a great moment for Bill, and I ain't taking anything away from him. I had a great run. But in retrospect, I think that it was still too early for him. Yeah. Because he was like, if you look at him, anything he's done in the last 5 years for WWE, when he grabs that mic, he knows who he is. Yeah. And he's cut some pretty damn good promos. If you could have had that guy just about a year later, it might have been a different, it might have been different. If Hulk and I would have done if they would have kept pushing me after Randy and it kept going, I would have been ready for Hulk. And I could have, because we already had the built-in thing, him whipping me with a cage. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff that we did that would have been perfect. And then I could have tagged it right off the bill. And I think all he needed was another 6 months to get comfortable. Billy was maybe 2 years, not even 2 years in when he beat Hogan.
His first match was September of 97. So he beats Hogan for the belt July of 98. I mean, that's
a year and a half.
9 years. Yeah.
And as good as he was in the ring, and he was unbelievable for a guy who's a year and a half in.
8 months, Dallas. He's 8 months in.
Oh, 8 months in. Again, the only person, that I think it was so hard for him to catch up on the verbal end, because who's next?
Yeah.
Yeah, that works until you get to where, okay, now we got to talk. And again, what Bill's done in the last 5 years is by coming back, and he could cut promos because he knows who Bill Goldberg is as that athlete. He put all that time in. And I thought he did a hell of a job coming back, and the stuff that he's done with them, especially when he first came back, because they needed him. He could really deliver the goods verbally. He needed another at least 6 months. Let that guy get comfortable. He ain't going anywhere. He's a juggernaut. One of my favorite moments of Bill Goldberg, and this doesn't even have anything to do with him doing it. I went to USA Today, and I just happened to be looking through it. They used to do those little the cartoons, like the cartoons that political cartoon. But this one was a picture. It was a garbage can, and in the garbage can was MJ, and on the wall was a picture of Goldberg, and they were putting a nail in. Swear to God, I wish I would have kept that, because people don't believe me when I say it, but it's true. Wow. It was USA Today. I didn't say it.
That's friggin' huge.
It was humongous. Billy had made such an impact. If he just would have had another 6 months for this, I think
to shine the product,
just to really get comfortable in friggin' his own skin talking, he could have. Who knows what would have happened? That's all I could say, is who knows what would have happened. As it is, we know what happened. But Bill, he was, I think, having that moment, I don't think he would change a thing on that level, because it was in Georgia. There's 41,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, all his buddies from the Falcons are there. It's a huge moment for him. And, and it should have been. He's got both titles. He's one of the guys who ever got to do that, so God bless him, and then he could do it. But I would if I was booking, I would have liked to pull that off. I could have carried that for a little bit of time and give it right off to him, so that's just my own personal thing.
Jake, with the most famous arena in the world, arguably Madison Square Garden, what's your favorite and least favorite Garden memory?
Steamboat and I.
Yeah.
Ricky and I wrestled in there, and had a hell of a match, man. Did about 20, 25, something like that. Had a great time. My worst memory was with Macho Man's brother, Leaping Lanny. Leaping Lanny was going to do me the favor one night there when I first got up there, and he told me he had this new move. Folks, beware when somebody tells you they have a new move. That's what I learned that night. And what it was I was going to be on the floor, and he would be inside the ring, and he would grab the top rope, and he would leap up and be on the top rope, and then he would jump in the air and come off with the double axe out. Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead. I go out to the floor. I go to get up. He goes to do it, and he slips with one leg. As he's coming down, he's rolling, and he drives a knee right into my freaking kidney. Almost killed me. I went down. I was down for probably 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do shit. I thought my insides had just, and I was hurt. And when I finally got up, I got angry, and he got too close to the ropes, and I grabbed his leg and pulled him out to the floor. And back then they didn't have the mats outside the ring, and I gave him a hip toss, a running hip toss on the concrete to show him my love for his new move. Yeah, that was my least favorite, man, because I was hurt for several days, probably a couple of weeks.
I talked about this already in the show, but I'll repeat it again. My favorite match of him in the Garden was him and $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
Before he was the $1 Million Man, I think, wasn't he?
No,
Or did he come in as $1 Million Man?
He came in as $1 Million Man, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right. But it was a hell of a match, man. Those guys, it was like a textbook great match. It was for that Madison Square Garden TV.
Yeah.
It wasn't for the big TV. So those guys just went out there and did about 20 of them.
Yeah.
Just the best psychology. You can find that match, Madison Square Garden. That's what psychology 101 is of a match.
I'd forgotten about that.
Jake, tell us about what you thought of the ECW audience. I know you only had a handful of appearances there, but you knew they were a diehard bunch of fans.
They were. I think they were rabid, and they were kids. That's what I think of them. They were kids. They were kids that were allowed to be out of control. And I don't like audiences that are allowed to be out of control. That's danger. That's a problem. That goes right back to the Insane Clown Posse, And but ECW was the first ones to come out with that. And I appreciated how much they loved their wrestling. But I didn't appreciate the fact that they were allowed to be out of control. No. Yeah, I think I worked twice for them.
Yep. November to Remember was one of them. A big surprise at the pay-per-view, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I went in and DDT'd both people, I think.
Yeah, you were working with Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk and all those guys back then.
Yeah. Oh, that's where I got in trouble for the interview. I got in trouble because on the interview on the mic, I said, here's the difference between you and I. Your God giveth and your God taketh away. My God giveth, but it hasn't the balls to try anything else. And I got in shit over that.
How the hell did you get in heat for that?
Because they said it was just a little too far. I'm like, this is fucking ECW.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could say I'm going to Valhalla,
Dallas, you might not know this, but in my research, I found that you were a part of the highest, most attended WCW pay-per-view of all time. Did you know that? Slamboree 1999, you and Kevin Nash are the main event of the only WCW pay-per-view to have more than 20,000 paying fans. The only one.
Really?
They had 120,000
live people,
20,000 folks in the building who paid to see the show. Now, of course, they say Bash at the Beach 95 was they say the Bash at the Beach 95 was 50,000 folks. Well, we know none of those folks were paying anything, and I don't know how much I believe there were 50,000. To answer your question, though, Jake, the venue was the TWA Dome in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Wow.
20,000 folks.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of that with Kev because, when me and Kevin started at the bottom of the card.
That's an amazing story. His whole trip is just so amazing to be not the bottom, but underneath the bottom. Because he was underneath the bottom trying to fight out from that, I'm a manager. Because I don't care who you are. If you've been a manager first, you're not getting much in the locker room.
Yeah.
As far as respect respect. Because what are you doing in here? Oh, so you see now you want to be a wrestler. It's a big fucking deal, right? You think it's easy, kid? You're going to pay the hard way. And they made him pay.
And they did.
And that's one of the reasons I supported him was because I knew he was coming from hell trying to get out of it. And nobody was giving him anything. I used to school him on what they're trying to do to you.
Yeah, he did too. He did.
And I would tell him what they're going to do later after they promised him something else. So, oh my God, they're fixing to hit you with that. And, they would con him into doing something. And I'm like, dude, they're not going to give you what you think.
There was one time I even got like one of the few, like not arguments, but disagreements. And it was like, it's not going to mean anything. Like the angle they're going to put out for you, it's not going to mean anything. I go, well, what if it's a really good angle? What if it's really got some substance? And I cut the right promos. And he said, I'll give you one name, Ron Goldman. Who is that? And I said, the guy that OJ killed. And he said, do you think you know who Ron Goldman if Joe Schwartz killed him? I said, well, probably not. He goes, exactly. There's got to be someone that matters. There's got to be someone that they really care about. Like for you to make an impact, like me dropping the NWO.
Yeah.
That was huge. And to follow it up with Savage and then him put me over, I just had the feud of the year. Again, to what I was saying about the whole thing with Hulk and at the Dome. If you'd have kept going with me right there,
yeah,
I'd have been right there ready. I could talk with Hulk back and forth. We would have had great We would have great matches. We would have fucking really good. And that would have got ready for Bill. You don't even have to drop it on me. You just got to have me go for it, not me beat Hulk. Friggin' let's continue this story. Or I beat it and he takes it back like the following pay-per-view. And then it comes to Bill coming on.
You beat him, and Bill has to wrestle Hogan as he gets a match for you.
There's so many places to go.
Or a triple threat.
Triple threat.
That would have been awesome.
So back over to what were we talking about right before that?
Let's rapid fire some arenas right fast as we start to wind down. Because I think you guys both worked a lot of places. I can't believe it, but earlier on the archives of this show, we discovered that DDP, you actually wrestled the Sportatorium. Jake, you did too, right?
Oh, yeah. A lot.
Where does that rank as far as the all-time most famous, most important?
All-time worst buildings, yeah.
Worst, okay.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Well, for me, it was a bucket list. Yeah. It was a bucket list. But as soon as I felt that mat, like it was like this.
This was soft compared to that.
I was like, I'm good here.
Yeah. The turnbuckles did not move because they're cemented in. And protection was pretty bad because the guy got up and shot at me. And as a kid, I used to have to go and sit there and wait for my father to wrestle. And it was one of the nastiest, filthiest places you ever went into.
Well, let's get to the other side of it, though. Michael P.S. Hayes and Buddy hit that ring, bounced around. Bam Bam, not so much. He took some bumps.
Yeah.
But poor Michael and Buddy, they took some serious bumps on that match for years.
Yeah.
With those Von Erichs and drew monster money. So that's what gave it to me like the big. There was so many great stars that went through there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But, the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, so that was an unbelievable run that they had.
They were perfect for that.
Next, Dallas, from the outhouse to the penthouse, MSG. We just heard from Jake. What did you think of Madison Square Garden the first time you got to perform there?
It wasn't like it was anything like in a main event spot for me. Being a bucket list thing for a performer, hell yeah. I got to do it. And, I'd been there for New York Knicks games. I've been there, for big games and stuff. So I've been up there. I'd even seen wrestling there when I was a kid, so to me to actually be there, special moment. But it wasn't like if I was in the main event against Triple H, different animal. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What about the Cow Palace? I think you both probably spent some time out there.
God.
Let me go first on that one.
Go ahead.
I love the Cow Palace. Again, I'm a tweener. What do I call you?
Anti-hero.
I'm an anti-hero still when I perform there. And then I go through the crowd. I don't realize that crowd is a gangster crowd. And they loved me. But as I was going through it, boom, I lost that elbow pad. I lost that because they just grab, as you're running through it. It was a fun experience. And again, the Cow Palace ain't the sweetest place in the world to be wrestling in. It's exactly what it is.
I was
Cow
impressed
Palace
with the Colonel Sanders right next to the Cow Palace. That I went through the drive-through, and the drive-through had bulletproof glass to get your food. Yeah, I'm like, this chicken's good, but it's not quite that good, guys. Come on. Yeah, it was pretty spooky there to be in the area around it, but still, like bucket list. That's all.
What about the ECW arena? I know neither one of you worked it while ECW was running, but I think you've probably both been through it since. What did you think of the building?
Next.
Bingo parlor, but a lot of fun times I watched come out of there, and it has the ghosts of ECW past.
A lot of blood on those floors.
Yeah, I loved watching that. Dusty used to say to me all the time, D, I wish you would have experienced this one time going out there hitting some diamond cutters. Those people would have lost their minds. And I got to experience that with AEW, which to me is the closest thing. They're much more controlled. They're much more, they're a live ass, amazing crowd, the AEW fans.
Yeah.
And they come from all over.
Yeah.
I've experienced AEW. It's close enough for, ECW.
What about Sky Dome? It's kind of fun to think about WrestleMania 6. You guys are both there. You're cruising down in your pink Cadillac, though, Dallas. And when you have your big WrestleMania match, once you jump ship from WCW to the WWF, it's also back at the Sky Dome. How about that for bookends for you?
Crazy. You want to know something? The Undertaker may not be, but I'm still undefeated. 1-0.
1-0. There you go. The streak is alive.
Well, the streak's still alive.
I've been in the Sky Dome a couple of times, and I really enjoyed the hotel rooms that had the view.
Yep.
And I put on a couple of shows right there.
I've heard about those.
Got you arrested today.
Yeah, I wish we'd get me arrested today. That was a good night.
What'd you guys think of Center Stage? Jake, Tony Schiavone thinks Center Stage was a dump. He hated it. What say you?
I did too. I thought it sucked.
For me, it has so many different memories because that's the emergence of what I did and who I was with, and Stone Cold before that, Stunning Steve, and Mark Merrow as Johnny B. Bad, and Marcus Bagwell, Kevin Nash, and Eric Watts and Van Hammer. So many of my buddies are still my closest friends today, that all came through there. It was a dump. Yeah. But it was our dump.
Well, a place that was not a dump, Arn Anderson called it the Madison Square Garden of the South. Jake, what did you think of the Omni?
I love the Omni, man. That was the greatest time of my life, being the booker, wrestling Ronnie Garvin every night, trying to teach the Road Warriors not to kill everybody, just who I tell to. Watching Brad Armstrong become a star.
He was magic.
And I have a lot of great memories about the Omni, man. And the only bad memory I have of the Omni was Missy Hyatt. And that's all I'm saying.
So I'll go from this. I'm in a battle royal and me and Teddy Long are both in the battle royal as managers with wrestlers. Of course, we got our ass kicked and thrown out, but we both end up in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Freaking 20 some years later.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite moments is Mark Merrow, AKA Johnny B. Bad, walking up to me, and I'm getting ready to go out. And he's standing there. And I go, man, what are you doing? Where are we going? He's going to take a shower. What? He goes, did I wrestle? Oh, God. He goes, I feel like I already been out there. I go, yeah, bro, I just watched your match. He's like,
oh my God.
Yeah. I don't remember anything. I remember walking back.
Wow.
I mean, It was out the whole match that I remember. It might have been part of it, but I remember the whole one. And I think I'd already wrestled Change because he was later in the card. So he'd come up to me. Yeah, I wasn't ready to go out. I already taken a shower, come out there, and then he walks up to me in his gear. It reminds me of that time I said to Kimberly when we were walking backstage, did I just wrestle? What happened?
It does happen.
Yeah.
Two more, and then we'll wrap things up. Jake, Greensboro, the home of Starrcade. Any good memories from Greensboro and the Coliseum there?
No, I don't, because my most memorable match was against a friggin' machine. And I've never been blown up like I got blown up that night.
Who'd you work with?
Ivan Koloff.
Oh, wow.
And he was a friggin' machine. He was a bump machine. He just kept coming, and I could not get him off of me. He was bumping every time I touched him, but I could not get him off of me. I remember almost collapsing on the way back to the locker room, man, just out of gas so bad. I was quivering, shaking. I thought I was going to die. And he was putting me over. Those fans knew I got my ass kicked. They may have raised my hand, but I got my ass handed to me.
Yeah, for me, Greensboro, I just love the fans. I love all
the fans are awesome.
The fans are amazing. Really all through the Carolinas and Georgia, Birmingham, Kentucky, Ohio. I mean, there's just that whole area is just awesome fans. And hell, Greensboro now, that place is blowing up, man. Huge. I wish I would have bought some land there. Yeah, a couple, 10, 15 years back, 25 years back. Because, man, that place is blown up.
One last one. Dallas, one of the more famous venues back in the territory days where Hulk Hogan and Andre and a lot of others went through. The dirt floors in Dothan. You ever get to wrestle down there?
Are you serious? That's the 4.5 hour ride from here, man.
Yeah.
That man, when I saw Dothan on the schedule, I was like, damn. Now I bought a place down in Panama City Beach, on the beach. So we're building down there. Me and my wife, Paige, built actually a retreat down there at Paige's Retreat. And we go through it all the time. And I have very fond memories now because I'm on my way to Panama City Beach. But I love the fans there. They were great. But to me, I could have skipped that loop. You always, God, we got to get there. And then you realize it's an hour back. I could have left an hour later. And now we're going to go back home and I'm going to lose that hour. So it was things like that. One time, me and Bischoff were driving back to Atlanta, and this crazy rainstorm came. And then this is something like out of the apocalypse. Frogs.
What?
When I say frogs jumping into the road, and this goes on for about a quarter of a mile of crazy frogs. Ask Bish about the frogs.
So this is like the movie Magnolia you're talking about here.
Jake's trying to get out of here. Jake's gone. He's gone. He's out of here. So I'm telling you, ask Bischoff if he remembers that about the frogs jumping. We thought it was like, what the fuck is happening? And all these crazy frogs were, down, and we were just wiping them out, driving over so many, they hitting the windshield. It was crazy.
The idea that there were frogs raining is enough for Jake the Snake to do not a run in, but a run out. And we are out of time today, but we'll be back next week talking all things wrestling here with DDP and Jake the Snake Roberts. In the meantime, catch both of these guys on Cameo. And there he goes. There he goes. I don't know where he'll stop. Nobody knows. We'll see you guys next week right here on DDP Snake Pit.
See ya. Bang.